Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel. Today's video is really just a chill little video, kind of a casual paint with me. I'm painting a few portraits in watercolors and telling you a little bit about me. An introduction, if you will. So, my name is Bree, and in 2019 I made a New Year's resolution to get back into art. As a kid, I loved art. I was one of those doodle in the margin of all my notebooks kind of kids. My mom really encouraged me to draw and paint, and she signed me up for traditional drawing classes at our local community center, which honestly I didn't like very much. It was lots of drawing shapes like cubes and spheres and shading the shapes and boring fundamentals that wee little Bree was not really into. A few years later, she put me into a less traditional painting class. It was an ongoing class every Monday evening or other nights as well, but I went Mondays. And the teacher there was very relaxed. She taught oil painting. Now, I don't know why my mother decided to sign me up for one of the more expensive painting mediums, but she did, bless her, and I stayed in that class for around 6 years, almost every Monday night from 7th grade through high school, and I only stopped once I started college. Towards the end, I did dabble a bit in watercolors, and in my own time, I was getting into Copic markers. That was through my love of anime and manga. But for the majority of my traditional art lessons, those were based in oil. Looking back on it, my early paintings were not the greatest. But I think the biggest takeaway from those classes, for me, was how to mix colors. It went well beyond red and yellow make orange, but I learned how to add hints of unexpected colors to achieve just the right shades, a little bit of red to make something warmer, a bit of blue or green to make something cooler, how to mix different color values of the same shade before starting a painting, how to glaze over an already present color to achieve a different shade or a shadow. These are the skills that I still use to this day. Fast forward a few years, and by the time I was graduating college, I wasn't doing much art at all anymore. A few years of trying to be an adult, and I didn't really consider myself an artist anymore, which is pretty sad. The very last thing in my sketchbook was dated 2014, and I basically didn't touch it again until 2019, which is when I decided to get back into art. YouTube really helped me with that whole journey. I started just randomly sketching things, and I would draw from magazines, fashion spreads, anime characters, random art tutorials, you name it. I don't remember how I found it, but I found the YouTube channel Juicy Ink, and she is now under a different channel with her own name called Victoria Gedvillis, but with Juicy Ink, that was the first one that I found, and I just fell in love with her art and her painting style and her way of using lines and ink, and it was just gorgeous. I loved it. So I started with her sketchbook tour, and it was just so inspiring to me, and I still watch both of her old and new channels to this day. Her art was what pushed me in the direction of using watercolors myself. I had used watercolors a little bit in the past, but wow, there is so much to learn and so much to experiment with, and that's really where this channel comes in. As you can see from this video, and from my past videos as well, if you happen to have seen those, I still have a really long way to go. But there's just something really relaxing about putting paint on paper, and it's so satisfying to just have that painting at the end, an end result, even if it's not a masterpiece, just something you can look at and say, look what I made today. Look at this little step forward that I've taken in my art journey. So with the current painting that you are watching now, it's basically another one of the Pexels portraits that I find online. Um, I really love using those websites, just looking around, all kinds of inspiration. It really makes me want to try all different kinds of portraits and landscapes and still life paintings. Um, Honestly, the number of things that I want to paint now, it's too many to list. This sketchbook has become one of my favorites to use. It is the Stillman and Byrne Delta Edition. It's actually a slightly off-white color, which you can't tell from the video because unfortunately my lighting is not the greatest. I don't know if you can tell, but I am relying on 100% natural lighting in this video. Our house has terrible lighting, to be honest, so hopefully I can improve on that in future videos. Um, but for now, you have what you see now, and the paints that I am using are from my main palette. It's a mix of Da Vinci and Daniel Smith watercolors. I will link down below in the description all of the paints that I use in my main palette. These paints are sort of, I can't say a product of love, but they are a product of my 2 years of painting experience in combination with my oil past, and all of the basic colors that I always had on my oil palette are somewhat present in this palette as well. So I've always had a burnt umber and a burnt sienna, a Payne's gray, alizarin crimson, some sort of bright yellow, some sort of darker yellow. I don't quite have the same greens and blues, but I do have somewhat of an equivalent to my typical phthalo blue and ultramarine blue, as well as I had a sap green, I believe, when I painted with oils, and a phthalo green as well. These colors, I didn't use all of them in today's painting, but I did use a good number of them. If you have any questions about how I mixed any particular color, please feel free to ask me in the comments below. Sometimes I do something weird with the skin. I know it gets talked about a lot, but using a yellow-green with a pink to make a skin tone, I think that's somewhat common these days. In particular, I think that the skin tone used on the larger portrait here is a mixture of quinacridone coral and a green gold. So there's all different kinds of colors that you can use to achieve different kinds of skin tones, which is just one of the many wonderful things about watercolors. I think a lot of people have their own signature color combinations to achieve different looks. So hopefully one day, I'll have my own signature color combinations myself. If anyone is wondering, the brushes used for these paintings are a silver black velvet round brush in a size 8, as well as a Princeton Heritage round brush, and that's in a size 4. So these are a couple of my favorite brushes. The silver black velvet was actually a bit of a splurge. Not quite a splurge, but it was a Christmas present to myself that I got just this year. So they're really nice to use. They have a really great point, a fine point that helps you get little tight marks even with the larger brushes. So the little hairs, as well as the larger amounts of just pigment to cover the larger areas, all done with one brush, which is really nice. I've actually seen a lot of artists use these brushes, so they're not exactly common. I haven't found them in my own local art store, but I think they are quite popular. I definitely see a lot of floral painters using these brushes, which I can see with that really great point that you can get with them. I'm sure it's great for leaves and flower petals, but for my purposes, they are being used for hair and getting all the little nooks and crannies, even painting in the eyelashes of this girl. So if you're looking for a great all-rounder brush, I do really recommend the silver black velvet brushes. Um, they work really well. You can't go wrong. Again, link is down in the description. I do have affiliate links, so anytime you decide to make a purchase, it will help me out at no cost to you, no extra cost, that is. And we are coming to the end of the video. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a like. And if you're interested in seeing more art videos, speed paints, possibly some future tutorials or reviews, hit that subscribe button as well. I'm new to YouTube and it will really help me out. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.